Recently, a little before Christmas, Sheldon Mannery of the Commander Rules Committee gave the community a little present in the form of a new article. It focused on the newest Elesh Norn card coming soon in the set Phyrexia All Will Be One. If you haven't seen her yet, here she is in all her glory. Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines, costs 4 generic mana and 1 white mana for a 4/7 legendary Phyrexian Praetor. She has Vigilance and says, if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. She also says, permanents entering the battlefield don't cause abilities of permanents your opponents control to trigger. She's pretty powerful, and a nice change of pace for white. Also, probably pretty good in the 99 of some decks. Sheldon Mannery, however, believes she is too good. He says she is too powerful of a value engine that costs very little mana, and will become a format staple that hurts the social value of the format. Sheldon begins his article by declaring the Mother of Machines is a controversial card that surprised players. Quote, Commander Rules Committee member Sheldon Mannery weighs in on the most controversial Phyrexian All Will Be One preview, Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines, and what it means for the format. The first Phyrexia All Will Be One previews have hit the streets, or more like slammed into the pavement. Now, if you follow the online Magic community, when this card was first previewed, there was no talk of it being unfun to play against, too good, or even potentially needing to be banned in Commander. Between comments where players called her mommy and asked her to step on them, the general community's reaction was that the Mother of Machines looked like a cool card. On the competitive side of the Commander community, the general consensus seemed to be that she will be playable, not broken, not a staple, but playable. I would argue that this card is not controversial in any way. Sheldon, however, seems to be projecting his feelings about the new Elesh Norn onto the general community. Going through the rest of the article, Sheldon breaks down what effect the new Norn is going to have on Commander. He thinks she's not just good, she's too good. Quote, if you're playing white, there's no reason to avoid playing Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines. It's hard to imagine a deck that wouldn't get at least a little benefit from having it in the 99, even if the deck is only taking advantage of one side or the other. He says this as the face of a format with Soul Ring, Mana Vault, Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, Dockside Extortionist, and many other staples that actually warp games around themselves. For some reason though, he's worried about a 5-mana creature card becoming a staple before she's even printed. Unless you're using her to specifically counter a strategy or a set of cards with enter the battlefield abilities, her stacks ability isn't going to stop all of your opponents from winning the game. Not a lot of players run Torpor Orb style effects. The same goes for her Panharmonicon ability. Players run Panharmonicon, but they don't shove it into any deck that runs a few cards with enter the battlefield triggers. Sheldon also fixates on the Mother Machine's mana value. Over and over again, he says that a 5 mana for a creature with Norn's abilities is too cheap. While Norn is not a card that doesn't do nothing when she enters, she has 0 built-in protection. She easily dies to most forms of removal, and costs 5 in a non-green color identity. I do agree that she should have had a second white pip in her casting cost, but otherwise her costing 5 rather than 6 or 7 mana is fine. Speaking of mana, he uses a magical Christmas land style scenario to try to explain how good she is. Quote, then there are the triggered copiers like Minion Reflector and Mirrorworks. Sure, we have to pay for them, but another 2 mana to get an extra copy of that creature artifact is small potatoes. Oh yeah, I'm totally gonna destroy my friends tonight. First, I gotta get my commander on turn 5. Then I have to hope they don't kill her before I drop Mirrorworks on turn 6. Then, assuming nobody has removal, I get to throw down a Sword of Fire and Ice on turn 7, copying it twice with my mirror. Then, on turn 8, assuming nobody interferes, I get to equip Elesh Norn with the swords and start murdering my opponents, assuming they have no non-red or blue creatures in play. They'll never know it hit him. He must lose a lot of games. I get that he wants to explain why Norn is good to a general audience, but with his anecdote, he comes off as stuck in the past. You know, back before Commander was huge, where games would last 5 hours and the winner was determined by who didn't fall asleep trying to keep track of all the effects in play at once. To make his point better and to seem more in the know, I think Sheldon should have used a more efficient combo as an example of the power of Elesh Norn. For example, first, have him play the new Norn, Felidar Guardian, and a Mana Rock. Then, cast Restoration Angel. With one of her triggers, flicker the kitty. When it returns, flicker the angel and the rock. When the angel re-enters, repeat this process. You now have infinite mana. If you throw in a Spirited Companion, you can draw cards until you find Walking Ballista, cast it using your infinite mana, then win by using its activated ability to ping your opponents to death. Now, to his credit, Sheldon does briefly talk about Norn in the context of competitive Commander. He discusses the interactions that Norn will have with Dockside Extortionist and Thassa's Oracle. If cast or cheated into play early, She can double your dockside trigger while turning off your opponents, and she prevents others from attempting to go for a win with Thassa's Oracle. He doesn't, however, explain the obvious interaction of winning twice with Thassa's Oracle. Come on, Sheldon, double wins! Double wins! On the more casual side of things, Sheldon talks about what he calls the social value in the format, and says Elesh Norn is going to somehow ruin that. Quote, especially in Commander, we also have to remember that there's more than just the mechanical value of cards. There's also the, arguably more important, social value. Cards in Commander are more than just game pieces. They're part of a vibrant ecosystem, which includes well more than just gameplay. Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines, is going to blow a wind of change through our landscape. Norn, he believes, disrupts the social value of Commander by being an asymmetrical card. She gives you double the ETB triggers while removing them from your opponents. However, this isn't some new concept Wizards is testing out on Norn. The Phyrexian Praetors have been a thing since 2011, and they have always had this asymmetrical aspect to them. The Mother of Machines is just part of a new cycle. While I agree with Sheldon that Elesh Norn is good and will see play, I don't think she uniquely disrupts the social value more than any other card of her same cycle. I'd actually argue her original card, the Grand Cenobite, is probably much less fun to play against. Sheldon is apparently so afraid of Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines, that when he and the rest of the Rules Committee were given an extra early preview of the card during development, he wrote an email to someone at Wizards HQ to quote, "Please never print this card." He went on to emphasize this point. Quote, "Shortly thereafter, I found out I wasn't the only one of the four of us who had done that. We of course then talked about it together as well and reiterated our point during the joint feedback. This is not a healthy card for Commander." So this isn't just Sheldon freaking out about the Mother of Machines, apparently. The way he writes it, it sounds like at least one other member in the RC agrees with him. Despite their protests, the card is going to be printed this month. Sheldon was so upset by Wizards' decision to keep the Mother of Machines as is and to send her to the printers that he thinks Wizards doesn't care about Commander. Quote, "I get that it's a main set card, not in Commander product, and I'll return to the recognition that not everything has to be designed with Commander in mind. I'll also point out that it would also be tremendously naive for a designer/design team to ignore Commander's existence when designing cards." Contrary to what Sheldon says, Wizards of the Coast does anything but ignore Commander's existence. In a recent episode on his podcast, Mark Rosewater, the head of design at Wizards, dedicated an hour explaining the design challenges they now face having to design all sets with Commander in mind. As well, if you play standard sets that have been coming out the past few years, you'll notice there's been an influx of legendary creatures, not to mention the increase in the number of pre-constructed Commander decks. For Sheldon to imply that Wizards designers don't care about Commander at all because they didn't take action on the Rules Committee's feedback for a single card is both irresponsible and absurd. He ends the article by trying to reassure us that he's only one of 6 people on the RC, that he'd have to convince all of them to ban her, and that they'd take a while to ban cards. But the thing is, he already said that enough of them felt the same way about Elesh Norn during development that they jointly told Wizards to not print her. While I don't think she'll perform anywhere near as well as Sheldon says she will, it worries me that he and some other RC members are so bad at card evaluation. So what should we take away from this whole thing? The RC is really bad at evaluating cards. There's no doubt this has already affected the ban list. It's also possible that the general community evaluated Elesh Norn wrong and she's better than we think. But Sheldon's reasons for her to not be printed in the first place are beyond non-convincing. They actively make the RC look bad. I don't know about you, but my trust for the Commander RC to make sure this format is fun and healthy has evaporated over the years, and Sheldon's article here about Elesh Norn just cements that for me even more. I don't know what, but I think there needs to be some drastic changes to the ruling body for Commander. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I hope you open a card as cool as Elesh Norn at the next pre-release. Bye!